ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once again to the Discipline Therapy Podcast with your two hosts, Suhey Sotomayor, and with me always,
EL Discipline in the building.
We want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Nelly's Taqueria and Cantina in Hicksville. So if you guys are looking for authentic Mexican food, Nelly's Taqueria and Cantina. Also, big shout out to our home, Legendary Studios. This is where we and Mr. Your Discipline, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, since you are fiends, what that means is we have a dose of discipline therapy where everything is completely free. See, if you subscribe, it's free. It's the monthly fee. It's judgment free, sucker free, censor free, sensitive free, and plenty of liberty. God and the ancient ancestors are great, and that means everything else is straight. So go grab your wine, popcorn, or roll a blunt, but the main thing is make sure the kids are in bed. This is that soul food conversation. Prepare your mind to be fed. Light one up, inhale life, and exhale strife. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you are tuned into the Discipline Therapy Podcast. We're here.
I wanted to say it in Creole.
Nula.
Nula. Next time.
Ya
Nula.
tu sabe.
Well, we have a special guest today. Everybody's probably
Yes.
wondering who the heck is sitting next to me. This
Very
is our
excited.
special guest.
Very excited. This guy is the photographer he's the one that took the photos.
He's the one who did the magic.
Very good guy. Shout out to Chris. Thank you for coming on to the show.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what we do first and foremost before we get into it, very excited, but we have to go step by step. We always ask our guests, how did they cope during the pandemic? Have they learned anything about themselves? What did they figure out? Has it hurt them in any way? Did they capitalize on it?
So essentially, I want to say I learned the biggest thing about me during the quarantine is that I'm an extrovert outside, but once I'm inside, I'm completely introvert. I was able to be home, be solo, and be me 100% the entire quarantine. I was not upset at all during quarantine.
That's awesome because you hear a lot of stories about people getting depressed.
Yeah. I think it's, for me, I've spent a lot of time outside and trying to push myself and my actual personality, not on people, but to the public. So once I was able to actually be home, it was like a giant break. Like I took a giant breath of fresh air. Like if I wanted to learn how to cook, that would be the time. Or if I wanted to learn how to build something, that would be the time. And
Absolutely.
so instead of sitting down twiddling my thumbs, I was kind of, figuring out what the next thing I could do is.
Absolutely.
Good for you.
I always say that this has been a hardship for all of us. We've all been affected in some type of way or another. However, like we could take this negative and turn it into a positive, like you were saying
Right.
about the figuring out different things, like myself with the whole podcast game. You know what I'm saying? Like we're doing this shit by ourselves, and I do a lot of the editing. I had to
All the editing.
I had to learn all that, in a a short time span, so being that, with everything with the global pandemic, I feel like it slowed down and I was able to catch up, so I want to
Definitely.
talk about your journey as far as being a published photographer.
I think it actually kind of started a little bit before quarantine, actually. At first I just started to all right, so the very beginning is my brother had got this camera because my brother was trying to figure out what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So he got the camera and started taking classes, and it wasn't for him. So I took his camera because I was like, oh, I like photography. So from there, I just started to mirror one of my close friends. Is it all right if I shout him out right now?
Yeah.
All right, so his East Side Oats, I believe, East Side Quincy on Instagram, on IG. He has the most amazing photos. He's definitely better than me. He taught me a lot. And that's how I kind of started to get into okay, I can make money doing this, and it's fun. I actually enjoy taking pictures, giving us a little bit of it's a work.
That's
It's a job.
important that you enjoy what you do, and you're so good at it that you can tell by your photos that you enjoy what you do.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
can.
When we were taking those shots, it's like you could tell when people know what they're talking about and when people don't. And you had so many ideas, like, yo, you could do this, the angles that you were hitting, and you were elaborate. You were explaining, like, this is why I do this is why I do that. And it's like, I wouldn't believe, if you told me you were only doing this for like a year, 2 years, I wouldn't believe that. The way you just are so elaborate, I wouldn't believe it.
And passionate about
You
it.
understand what I'm saying? Because I used to be a model, and I worked with like 100+ photographers. You know what I'm saying? And I could name, like, on my hand of how many were like that, and they've been doing it for like 20 years or 15 years, 10 years or whatever.
I think we actually had a conversation about like how if you're doing something like it's almost like intimate sort of with a photo shoot because
Yes,
it's you and the photographer, and if you're not
absolutely.
vibing with that person, it's almost like so
Chemistry.
uncomfortable.
Chemistry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you need that type of reaction in between the
absolutely.
photographer and in this sense the models, which were you guys. And
Absolutely.
I feel
Yeah.
like that was a good thing that we kind of
And we had that vibe. That's one of the things I loved. And one of the things I said that, we got to get you on the show.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We definitely
Yes.
got to get you on the show because, like, the conversations were flowing with the whole setup and everything like that. There's so much stuff that you wanted to talk about and start up
Incorporate.
outside of photography. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So right now I'm working on I want to say like 2 or 3 big projects.
Okay.
I can't talk about 2 of them, but I can definitely talk about the next step for my business
Mm-hmm.
because it's solely me. On the other 2, I have like aspiring partners.
Absolutely.
So if I
yeah.
was to speak about it, then I don't want to upset anybody about
Yeah,
it. But
understood.
the basis of the other 2, one is going to be a form of community outreach,
Oh,
That's
and
okay.
awesome.
it would be reaching to a lot of people who were seen at one point unreachable.
Mm.
So I think that's a big giant change for community. Just reaching those people that kind of feel silenced and feel like they're not as important as everybody else.
Yeah.
And through the pandemic, you can kind of see that there's a lot of groups of people that haven't really been heard. And
Absolutely.
this is definitely one group of people that even the media has yet to cover well because we've kind of been distracted.
Mm.
So the second project that I have has to do with esports and gaming. And I've been trying to do something in that kind of field for the longest because although I am a photographer,
Mm.
I'm also a gamer. So
Yeah.
I have a Twitch channel that's been suffering, but I'm busy doing other things. Like I can't just focus on one thing. So as long as I'm having fun, it's good.
Yeah.
That's gonna be bigger, I feel, in size
Mm-hmm.
than the first project, only because the gaming community is
It's
a community
huge.
it's been growing.
It's huge.
Completely. Without a doubt, esports was never seen to be this big. When I was in high school or even middle school at that, it was almost completely against the norm to be playing video games. You would be ridiculed for playing video games all the time.
Mm.
Like people would look at me and say, "Oh, you definitely don't have a girlfriend because you're playing video games all the time." And well, clearly I do now. So like, it's not the video games,
Surprise.
right? It's not the
Yeah.
video games that made me weird. I'm weird. I'm a weird dude.
And plus, with the pandemic, it's gotten, I think, so much bigger. Like
Yes.
I work in a hospital with nurses. I have some of my nurses on Twitch, and they're like full on gaming, and I'm like, "You go, girl, saving
Yeah.
lives during the day and playing at night."
There's Go ahead.
No, you first, man.
There's a couple of questions I want to ask you, but I want to let you finish.
All right. So basically, lastly, the biggest project for the photography portion of me is I'm trying to full on like establish my business, and I want to continue into more videography and start doing videos for people. Like I showed you guys before we started this a little snip, and it was just chandelier lights, and it made me so happy that I captured these chandelier lights. So I want to see if I can make other people happy by capturing their life through video.
Well, how about you make us happy, and when we're gonna start our movie or our
Television show.
right, you be the film guy. I don't know what is that?
Cameraman or
No,
film
filmographer. I don't know what is that. What is that called?
videographer.
Videographer,
Yeah.
cinematographer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I love you guys. So
Because
whatever
it's
y'all need,
happening.
whatever y'all need, I'm here.
I appreciate it.
We
Appreciate
have our director. We have our director.
Yeah, so the two questions that I wanted to ask you. First of all, I want to ask well, I think this one is better because I think the other one is going to be longer. So I'm going to ask you this first because I have two questions. The two questions are: has anybody, like, let's say for example, you set up a shoot with someone, Have they canceled? And if they did, what did you do to rectify that?
Or
Did
no
you
show.
Yeah, the
Ooh.
call no shows. Shout out to Rob because we have a mutual friend in Rob, and I asked him this question because he's a tattooist. So that was one, and the second was, what are your aspirations? Like as far as where do you see yourself with this? Do you see yourself doing this for the next 10 years?
All right. So to answer the first question, primarily, I have had people cancel on me, and I didn't feel bad when they canceled on me. I kind of just like took it as like, you know, something can happen at any moment in time.
What
So
about the no call no show? Have you
no,
ever experienced that?
I think I did. I think I did. I kind of pushed those into the back of my head though, because I'm just like, for me to succeed, I have to keep moving forward. And
Yeah.
if I keep thinking about that negative
Yeah.
interaction with this person, it's gonna.
So let's say that was your only project for the day. What did you do if they called no call no show?
I have this tendency to kind of fill that spot as fast as I could. Like I'll
That's
start calling
awesome.
that's
people
phenomenal.
and seeing if I can like do
That's
something, because
phenomenal.
I freed up my time for this
Specific.
photo shoot, right? For this
Absolutely.
specific reason.
Yes.
So if you no call no show me, I'm not gonna be
Yes.
as upset trying to focus on it. I'm gonna
and
fill
I'm
it.
glad you said that I put my time aside because one of the things I love about you is your punctuality. Like you're a very punctual person. I respect that because I am that way. That's one of my pet peeves. If I'm on time, I'm late. You understand? Whether it's my project, someone else's, and that's always something that I will respect with you. Like we told you a time, you're already here like 30 minutes prior. So I could always respect that because like I'm the same way. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like if you talk about that, you're putting your time, it's just common courtesy. You want to respect what you're doing and you want the other person on the receiving end to also respect what you're doing and you're respecting their time as well.
Mhm. I actually have a teacher years ago when I was in high school. My high school orchestra teacher, actually, he used to hang quotes in his room from like all these famous people, and he had a quote up there that was one of his own quotes. And we used to like make fun of him and kind of like take like jabs at him like behind closed doors and say like, oh man, he thinks he's like as high as those people
Yeah.
who made those quotes and stuff. And that was high school me, and not realizing how like powerful his quote was compared to everybody else's. And his quote was, early is on time and on time is late. And
That's-
if you
that's the
100%.
same.
if you break that down to a philosophy, that's like everything in life.
Yeah.
Because we're all running to something.
Yes.
And other people can be running to what you're about to run to.
Yes.
But it's who gets there first
Yes.
that gets it. So you want to be early or you want to aim to be on
Yes.
time and just
And
miss.
the-
And just barely make it
And the
there.
reason, and I'll elaborate the reason why I'm that way is because I'm always about preparation. So if I'm going to a place, it could even be like a venue. Like let's say I'm going to the club, so something that's just mundane for me now. Because I've like when I was younger, I was going to the club like every weekend. But just going to the club, like I've always wanted to get there 30 minutes, 15 minutes earlier, just to scope it out, prepare, do whatever. It's like with the podcast. Like we have a certain time we want to start this.
Yes.
We're here 30 minutes prior, setting up mics, doing sound checks, videography, because we do video as well on YouTube. Shout out to the YouTube page, youtube.com/The Discipline Therapy Podcast. So we have to prepare. If you're on time, you don't have time to
You don't have
prepare.
time.
And now you're going to be late.
Right.
So,
100%.
yeah.
Now, with the other two things that you have going on that you can't really talk about, when that is on and popping, right back here,
Of course. No.
right back here,
This is going to be the
we
first
get
place.
we get first dibs.
First dibs.
We get first dibs over here.
No, that will be an exclusive to the Discipline
Exclusive,
Therapy
right? Look, I'm
podcast.
getting chills. Exclusive.
Oh, as far
So
as
yeah, what about
your goals as far as like, do you see yourself doing this for the next 10 years or?
So to keep it organized for the next 10 years, I definitely want to do photography. I think I've mentioned it like plenty of times to my own girlfriend. I've told her 100% if I was able to quit all my jobs and just do photography and gaming and maybe another business on top of that, I would be the happiest person in the world work-wise. Like that would be my end
That's
all be all
awesome.
of it. So in the next 10 years, I definitely want to still be doing photography, but I want to be so much better.
Submerged in it, yeah.
Yeah, I want to be so deep in my photography and videography that it's worth taking those days off of work.
Yeah.
I can take that week off
So
of work.
here's the thing. So photography is your passion. That's what you want to do for the next 10 years. The jobs that you're working right now, you don't see that as a future.
Not at all.
Okay. So the jobs that you're working right now, and I said this in episode 8, what a success means to you in season 1, active income and passive income. So my suggestion to you, maybe you know this already, but I'll just say it. My suggestion to you would be utilize the active income to build that passive.
Mm-hmm. I
You
completely
know what I'm saying?
agree.
Because that is gonna be your bread and butter. That is gonna
Your
be
money maker.
your future.
Mhm.
That is your passion. You know, right now, we all have to pay bills. We live in a capitalistic world, obviously, but you don't see yourself in these jobs. So like utilize those jobs, but push it towards that. That would be my suggestion.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally
Because
agree
some
with that.
people will be in a place or places for like 20 something years. And then now you might want to do something in photography, but that job, somebody called out, we need you. Now that shit has to suffer
Mm-hmm.
because you have to give that to the man or whatever it is, somebody working for somebody else or whatever that is, and your dreams might suffer from that.
That's actually a quarantine story that I have, because I actually was gonna take like this giant full step into fully establishing my photography business over quarantine, but I had to go back to work.
Ah.
So, and that kind of put a giant stopper in everything.
Mm.
So it's rough, but you do what you have to do in
Yeah.
the immediate to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, as long as you're able to fight another day,
Yeah.
then you're still in that fight.
Well, you
Your dream's
definitely
alive.
have the character for it. You have the passion for it. Like you
Thank
have the
you.
drive. I mean, you could see it
Yeah.
in you. You haven't said anything negative about if somebody no shows up. You're like, I'm not gonna waste my
Yup,
energy
yup.
on that. I'm just gonna move forward. Somebody else would have been like those mother effers, and I hate when they do that. But you are like, you know what? What are you gonna do? So you can see that. That's
All right.
awesome.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I've been trying to stick to meditation and positivity lately. So
Hey,
you gotta do it.
I want to get into the topic today.
Ooh, let's
So are you done asking him all the
about
questions?
his business.
Yeah.
As long as he brings the 2 new ones this way for the exclusive, I'm good with that. But I have other questions if we're gonna start talking about what the topic is. Do you want to know what the topic is?
Yeah, what is the topic?
The topic is dating outside of your race, culture, and religion, part 2. Because it was such a banger last time.
All right.
All right. So, Chris, have you dated outside of your race?
So I brought my better half with me here today.
I like it. I like that introduction.
She's outside of my race.
So
like partially. It depends if you want to get into like the actual history of backgrounds of things, but
okay.
I'm black. All right,
Yes.
I'm of African American descent. Like I'm of African descent, and my girlfriend is Puerto Rican.
Okay.
Clapping
So
hands.
she also has African descent.
Yes.
Yes.
If you go deeper into
Yes,
history,
yes,
you'll see
yes.
that a lot of
Afro-Latina?
yes,
Mhm.
a lot of that does come back down
But
to
she's-
multiple
Yeah.
African-based.
Mhm.
Yeah,
heritage.
because pretty much, I'm sorry to cut you off. Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, they're African Americans, they're Taino and Taina,
Right.
and they're Spanish.
Right.
That is their heritage, and it could go deeper into it. But like
Those are
when
the basics.
when Dominicans say, "Oh, I'm not black," shut up, you're black.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you could be a light skinned Dominican or have my color because I'm part Dominican. I'm Haitian and Dominican. I'm not saying to myself I'm not black. Like politically correct, I'm black. You see
Right.
me, I'm black. You understand? Now we're gonna get into nationality. Then it's Dominican and Haitian, but my race is black.
Mhm.
Yes. And I completely I'm on the same page.
Yeah, a lot of
with you
people
on
are confused, so we just want to, educate them.
Right.
But
So is this? I'm sorry, I
Go
don't
ahead.
mean to cut you off. Is she your first experience dating outside of your race?
Absolutely not. I've dabbled in
Dabbled. I like that.
yes, I've
He's
dabbled.
a dabbler.
Because I feel like if you close yourself off to certain races or ethnicities and religions and dating, then you're kind of like, I don't want to
Miss
say you're
out.
being racist, but you're missing out on the different opportunities. Like if you're willing to learn and be that studious person that we're all grown up to be after 12 years of school, you know,
Mhm.
you have to
What?
be a
Plus,
researcher.
you never
Why?
know
What?
what the other person got to offer.
Exactly. And you miss out.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why as a black man you've dated outside of your race more? Like, have you dated black women?
No. I don't
Why?
think I've ever had a
Why?
black girlfriend or a relationship.
Why?
Okay. This is kind of a slippery slope
And you could
of
be
that
as
question.
open. You could be as open as you want because our podcast is uncut. It's raw. There's no judgment.
Judgment free.
And also you can invoke your Fifth Amendment right. So if you don't want to say shit, I plead the Fifth.
I'm probably never going to plead the fifth here. So let's get into
Hey.
this. So now saying that I haven't dated someone of my own race
Yeah.
isn't that I wasn't attracted to someone of my own race. So I want to straighten that part out.
Yes,
Okay, good.
I like that.
A lot of the people of my own race that I have come into contact with have either been of two types of personalities, I believe. It's either they're extremely shy and they don't want to get into a relationship with me, or at that time, they were, I don't want to say a bad word.
In a relationship?
No, at the time, they weren't as presentable in a sense. I'm not saying that I'm the most presentable person in the world, but I also carry myself a certain way. And I kind of expect other people to carry themselves that way as well. And I shouldn't have that expectation, but it's just how I am. I don't want someone who's going to act out in a way that I wouldn't act out. You can be different, but I don't want you to like
Embarrass you?
well, birds of a feather flock together.
That's
So like
true.
if you associate yourself with people who may act differently than you,
Yeah.
then on the other side of that, someone else is looking in saying, "Oh, this is the people that he associates himself
Yes.
with, that he loves to be around. This is his."
I
So even
believe
if other
that.
people can't see the
You
inside that
are
I may
guilty
see,
by association no
Yep.
matter what.
right?
No matter what.
So like if for example, if there was a girl who would be, you know, more outspoken and not as educated as I am or something like that, then I'm gonna find that as a turnoff that we can't date.
Yes.
So
I
Because
like
you're
how
an
he said
educated
that.
man.
I like
You're
how
an
he said
educated
that.
black man.
right, and I'm not trying to say that people who aren't as educated as me don't deserve to be with me. I'm saying that
That's
on
your
my
choice.
end, I
Right.
can't make that decision
Yeah.
to do that because we're not on the same wavelength.
Yeah,
Right.
you're not gonna
So-
feel
100%.
compatible with them.
And I'm not saying black women aren't educated. I'm saying the black women that I've come around that I've had the chance to actually be in a relationship with, it didn't happen. And there's also the fact that I wasn't the cutest person back in the day.
Yeah.
So I wasn't catching girls like left and right or anything. Like I'm not balling or anything.
But-
so
But you might have a black woman who speaks properly, eloquent, classy. She makes 7 figures. She's corporate Wall Street, whatever. She might not be interested in you.
right. I may not be good enough.
She might be into a guy completely opposite. She might be into a hood nigga.
Yeah.
She might be completely like she might be into white guys.
Could be.
You understand what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying, because I've encountered the same thing. You know, I'm not gonna stand up here and say I don't like black women. My mother is Dominican, but she's black. You know what I'm saying? So me saying I don't like black women is like me saying I don't like my mother or my sister. You understand? It's just I've ran into the same situation that you've ran into. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like most black women I've encountered where, and I will say it, we're really hood. And even though I'm from the hood, I'm educated. So I'm not going back there. So I'm not dating hood chicks. I don't, and it's like, I don't even want to say black chicks. Latinas are hood. Asian are hood. And I said this in part 1. White girls are hood. I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
Is that
So-
assortative dating or mating? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Assortative mating is like that. You're dating someone because they're compatible. They might be Indians who practice Hindu. They want to stay with them the same culture, religion. Muslims want to stay with Muslims. Blacks want to stay with blacks. Hispanics or a Puerto Rican might want to stay with a Puerto Rican. Maybe because of the language. Maybe because of the culture, the food. That's like assortative mating. If you didn't know.
I didn't know.
I didn't actually. That's
Oh
why
yeah,
I was like watching so carefully. Just
yeah,
now.
because sometimes it's also environmental. Like I talk about the hood shit. Like I might meet a woman. I'm from Brownsville, Crown Heights, Prospect Park. I might meet a woman who's from Flatbush, but she's still hood, and I live in Long Island. in a high income environment. It's not gonna work because she's fucking stuck with the environment. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm moving her out of the hood. If she doesn't want to transition, it's weird because now
It's
when
hard.
you're in a relationship with someone, and I believe this, y'all feeding off of each other energy. So if you're with me, like I might say, okay, we connect on other levels, but she's hood. Now, if she's willing to transition, it's gonna work. But if I take you out in public and the waitress, you don't like what she's saying, and you're over here like, let me punch her in the fucking face. You understand what I'm saying?
It's
This is the
unacceptable.
hood chick.
Yes.
She really to pop off. Like, I can't take you anywhere. You can't even be classy in public. Like, this is what I'm talking about. So I get what you're saying. Have you encountered? Because you said your lady is Puerto Rican. Now, is she dark skin, light skin? Because there's different.
I mean,
Light
Can we-
skin?
can we get her in on here too?
Yeah, you can answer this one. Right?
He's like, can you answer this one, honey?
I'm more light skinned. I'm not really dark. I'm like
Yeah, she's like my color.
like her color, just maybe a little dark.
A shade, I say. Tiny bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you faced like let's say you guys go out in public, have you faced like
Backlash?
bigotry? Have you faced prejudice from your own family
Or friends.
friends? Oh,
And how
'Cause
did
a lot
you
of
how did you like
a lot of times, sorry to cut
go
you.
ahead, go ahead.
A lot of times black women, and I've because I've experienced this, black women have approached me and they have asked this question: why are all these black men dating these Boricuas or these just Puerto Rican or these light-skinned girls or these white girls or whatever? I hate that. Black women have articulated this to me. I hate it.
I haven't gotten that recently. I actually got that in high school though, when I was dating a Spanish girl, and then I think a lot of like my black female friends, they weren't kind of down with it, and it's not even like in a sense of like that they hated the girl. I think they just expected me
idea.
to date one of them as black women.
Do you feel that you gravitated towards those women because maybe they showed you more love? I'm just throwing darts in the dark. Or no?
I think so.
It's just what you were attracted to. Because some people have a preference of race. There's some white girls that just want to date black men. If you are a successful white guy, you in corporate Wall Street, you could give me all this finance. I don't care. I'm not fucking with you. I only like black men. And then there's, Latinas who are like that. There are black women who are like that. So do you feel that it is a specific thing or it is a personality thing? Is it a thing that this is a connection? I don't see no color.
I think there's a care factor, like of how much the other person would care, and I don't want to attach the race to it, but I'll attach it from my like perspective, like my experience is I've experienced that Hispanic women tend to care a little bit more than other races.
It's so funny he said that. Remember the part
That's
one?
why I looked at you, I
Remember
was
the
like,
part one
that's-
we did with I think Zoraida?
Mm-hmm.
She
She
said
said the
that.
same
She
thing.
said she only likes black men and
Because they
because
appreciate what she does
Yes.
more.
and he's kind of saying
Okay, hold on.
she
Can
wants
I
to
go?
say something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask her.
Because I am Puerto Rican, growing up Puerto Rican, my grandfather and my uncle used to say, like, when you start dating, we prefer you date a black man or a white man. Don't date a
Really?
Puerto Rican or a Dominican because we know how they are.
Ooh.
We
Interesting.
know
That's
how
why I
they
wanted
treat
her.
women, so we want you to date outside. So growing up dating, I kind of like stood away. Like, granted, yeah, I did date some Spanish dudes, but I stood more towards white and black guys.
Really? See, I was gonna ask
Why-
that question.
Why is that? Is it mainly because of what your family said or
Were you more attracted to white or
I
black
think it was
guys?
kind of like a mixture of both. I think it was like I know how my grandfather is. I knew how my uncle was. And I knew how like the men in my family were. So I was like, all right, so I know how Puerto Rican and Spanish men kind of are. And growing up in that environment, surrounded because I live in Huntington,
okay.
so it's predominantly Spanish men. So
Oh.
you go to like a store like Seatown, you get the cat calls and stuff at like age 12.
I used to go to Seatown with
Yeah.
my grandmother.
Yeah.
My grandmother, she's Dominican. Well, my late grandmother, she's Dominican, and I was 8 years old. She'd take me in there all the time.
Yeah, so at like age 12, you get the cat calls from the Spanish men
Oh,
stalking
awful.
the thing. So it's like, all right, that's a little weird. But then you go to places like Stop and Shop, and you're like, all right, I'm not getting catcalled. They're, it's normal. Like I feel normal.
Interesting. So you never had a problem with your family when you brought like a black guy or a white guy,
No.
with anybody? Oh, that's
It's
good.
to the point where I brought him home. My grandfather said, "Don't mess it up."
Oh, that's
oh,
nice.
That's dope. That's
That's
dope
awesome.
because that's not you don't
You
hear
don't
that
hear that a
often.
lot, yeah.
You don't hear that often.
I will say I don't expect everybody else to walk into a house for the first time meeting someone's parents the way I normally would. I'm not saying I'm better than everybody else, but I'm saying that I grew up with just my mom and my grandparents. So like my mom and my grandmother alone being like the dominant like female households, they were telling me straight up, when you walk in, you're gonna be this way. You're gonna say hi. You're gonna
those
greet.
domestic values.
It was learned at a very young age.
Yes.
So it wasn't me just like walking in, not expecting to act a certain way. Like I knew how I had to act.
Yes.
Or if I got home, it doesn't matter how old I am, my mom will whip me and I'm going to feel it.
It's amazing how not everybody, and I had to learn this with my kids. I taught my kids, they're 20 and 23. Since little, I told them, when you go into somebody's house, because this is how I was raised, you greet everybody. That's how I taught them. That's how I was taught. Some of their friends come in and it's like, who the hell just walked past by the house? Who's that? Bring them back over here and introduce them to me.
That's how my culture is. Like my mother's friends will come over. I'll have to, cheek kiss everybody.
Yes.
You have to cheek kiss them. You're not shaking hands because that's disrespectful. Haitian Dominican background. You're not shaking hands. You gotta hug them, cheek kiss them. You know what I'm saying? And everybody.
Each individual person.
Yes.
Hi, tia. Hi, tia. Hi, tia. Hi, tia. Hi, tio. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get what you mean.
So have you guys ever, besides outside of your race, have you ever dated outside of your religion? And was that she's like him.
Yeah. All right. So, she's not a bad person at all. I'm gonna say that 100%. No.
She's
I
not
only
bad
say
at
this
all.
because we're still friends to this day.
Good,
So,
good.
but so we
wait,
dated.
that's another topic. How do you feel about that?
we'll totally get there because I think she's a little more comfortable with it.
I know.
do that.
No, he loves you. I can tell.
No, we're really transparent. So
that's
it's not a
awesome.
bad
Good,
thing.
good.
Communication is key to any relationship, friendship, anything.
100%.
That's beautiful.
Person to person relationship has to have communication, hands down. But this friend that I now have, we had dated years back, and she was a Mormon. So I'm a Christian, so that's clearly tons ways outside of my religion. And just to like kind of outline the major differences of the religion,
because I'm not religious like that.
So essentially, Christianity is belief in the Bible, and it's just the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it's that God is a loving God.
Yeah.
So for Mormons, they actually believe in another part of a book called the Book of Mormon, saying that after the New Testament, there is more to the story. Like God didn't just stop speaking to the humans; He started picking more prophets and speaking to these prophets. And the belief that there's a higher education, that once you read this Bible and read the Book of Mormon, that you can reach a different type of salvation by following the words of these new prophets. So
interesting.
That's essentially the difference. Any other culture will, religion, I should say, any other religious conversation will probably battle at each other in the sense of, oh, that's the devil because of this book, or that's the devil because of this book. We only believe in these two books, and that's the main difference is, what are you reading? The values are almost the same, but once you have someone who's a little bit more religious than I am, they're going to follow their religion a little bit more strict, and I'm following my religion real loosely. Like, I'm not going to lie, back in high school, like most teenage boys, your idea is like, I want to lose my virginity. Yeah. All right. And that's the 100% thing. Given I wasn't pushing that on her at the time because, like, there's a little bit of an age difference, and I wanted to respect her religion. Yeah. Like, her religion was, we wait till marriage and we take things extremely slow. And I was perfectly fine with that.
What was that?
I couldn't.
She's like, give me
Part of it was like they couldn't hold hands until a certain point of them being together and everything.
Well, it was more. Really? No, it was more so like you have restrictions on how you would date. Like you don't date 1-to-1 like out in public going on dates. Like
you needed like a chaperone.
Or you get a group, or like you double date or triple date. Like you get people who are looking to do the same thing as you, but you keep away from being alone with this person. And if you think about that,
temptation,
right? The psychology of it all is to avoid being in that alone situation where
Oh
That
yeah,
is
because
amazing.
that's what it comes. Yo, that's what it comes down to when it comes down to sex. It's all about opportunity and space.
Exactly.
When you, it's a fact. You
That's
get you.
true.
That's why you might start talking to a woman and y'all having sex the first week because it's like the opportunity and the space.
Right. It's how free both of you are at the time. And if you could see it in pop culture and movies, actually, exactly what you just said. Most of the time when those intimate situations happen in movies, especially teenage-based movies like
Oh.
pop culture movies, it's when they're alone and everyone else is downstairs at a party.
That's when
But
it all
y'all are
happens.
upstairs. Or you guys are in the car alone and you just dropped everyone else off. And that's when it sparks. And that's the only trend that you see in these movies, that's exactly what it is. It's the opportunity.
Exactly.
I
So
love this conversation.
Right?
This
It's
shit's
so
flowing.
good.
Yo, have you ever seen other? Well, you probably obviously you have, whether it's social media or whatever. But how has it made you feel? Like, has it, like, being that you've dated more outside of your culture? You said that you've never encountered what I've encountered with these women saying, "Oh, I really hate it that black men are dating outside of their race." Now, when you see like a white girl with a black man or whatever it is, like, how does that make you feel?
I don't really care as much. I think for me, the reason I don't care is for us to move forward
Cause
and
I stated that. I'm not to cut you off. I'm
no,
sorry.
you go for
I
it.
stated that because sometimes people are like, "Oh my God, like let's be friends, let's connect or whatever," because they're doing what I'm doing.
I see. You're saying is there like a similarity, like a drawn energy coming
Yeah.
from these people who are doing what I'm doing?
Mm.
I will say that there's an appeal to wanting to speak to people in that situation because there
They're
is
in
a
the
lot
same
of
boat.
right. There's negative connotations to everything
Yes.
that you do, especially when it comes to dating outside of your race or religion. In America, at least, 100%.
Oh,
Yeah, in
let's
America,
not,
So-
that's a whole different topic.
So, when it comes down to that, like, yeah, I think I'm more drawn to people who are dating outside of their race and religion, or people who are willing to date outside of their race or religion, because it's like you see the same variety I see.
And you also see that they're more open-minded, I
Right.
guess. Is that why you think there's so many more interracial dating now than ever?
I think the reason that there's more interracial dating now is because all right, so I have this giant belief that going forward through the years, you're supposed to evolve. And
Me
us
too.
keeping ourselves to one race and keeping that race alive and worrying so much about keeping these cultures separate, that's an old people thing.
Yes.
That's like an old time
Yes.
way. It's like primitive. It's something that you've
Yes.
done at the beginning of time.
Not
That's why
only
we're
that,
separate.
but if you keep it like just black and just white and just Chinese and just that, you're gonna always have that racism factor. If everybody's mixed in some way, you can't hate half of you and love the other half,
Exactly.
or
Right.
1/4 of you.
I'm gonna ask you nitty gritty, and
Oh,
like I
shoot.
said, you can invoke your Fifth Amendment right.
You might want to pass her the mic. No, I'm
Now,
just kidding.
now I've dated other races, so I can say this, but I'm not gonna say it because it's my question. So I'll let people wonder. You've never dated black girls.
Never.
Damn. So it doesn't work, this question. I was gonna ask, do you feel that women outside of your race are more freakier? Are they more adventurous?
So it would be hard to
The
answer that because
I'm sorry to cut you off. Only because in
Can we
part
ask
one,
her?
the Puerto Rican that was on Zoraida,
Mhm.
she said, I mentioned, oh, in the bedroom, does it play a factor? And she said, yes, for black men. That's what she said. So that's why I'm asking you, as a man now, a man's perspective, you dating outside of your race, have you seen that? But it's kind of, because you didn't date like other.
Well, I mean, have you dated besides, Latinas or Hispanic, like Chinese or Indian or anything else?
I dated a girl who was like a mixture of Hungarian and German or something else. So
Okay.
and then the other girl besides that was Mexican, and then there was an Italian.
All right, so it's
Okay.
like
Yeah,
white and Spanish.
Okay.
yeah.
So which one's freakier? Just kidding.
I can totally answer that.
Okay.
I think that's actually not a problem. I think that's a very valid question to ask.
Okay.
And I think that comes down to like personal preference tastes eventually, like when you come down to like psychological what you're into.
Okay, so stop dancing around the question.
I like how he does that.
I'm gonna say
He's like, let me just tell you this.
I have experienced only one Spanish girl when it comes to being in bed, which is like my current situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best situation I've ever had. I think it comes from
you just stroked her ego right now.
She's like shining right now. She's like, hello, spotlight's on me.
It comes from the connection you have.
100%.
And it's definitely how you treat each other and the relationship factor.
I love your mentality.
Right? It's so refreshing.
I think the fact that we said it before, how Spanish girls kind of have a more caring factor to them.
Yes.
That definitely
Not so
plays
cold.
Right. No, exactly. That's 100% that it plays a giant part when you get down to being intimate, and it's like your most vulnerable point. So all the shells of your personality are kind of ripped off at that point.
I'm glad that you dissected it like that.
Wait,
glad.
can I ask her? Because you dated Spanish boys too, right?
Yeah, I dated black and Spanish and white.
So she got 3.
Okay.
So which one's
I
freakier?
dated a white guy, I dated a Dominican, I dated a Mexican.
So
and I dated black.
who's more adventurous? Who's freakier? Who is just willing to do shit like, yo, baby, let's use some whipped cream tonight. Let's bring out the handcuffs. I want to use some butt plugs.
Oh my Lord.
I would say black and the Dominican guy. Yeah.
He's still black.
Black.
Well, yeah, so black.
Black.
Yeah.
All right.
The Mexican that I dated, he's kind of just very like
Like
vanilla.
timid?
He was
Oh.
conservative.
Vanilla.
Yeah, very conservative.
Oh,
very,
she
like,
said vanilla.
She said vanilla.
He's vanilla.
Wait.
What does vanilla mean to you?
Like straight up, just boring.
You see,
Get it done.
I
and
wasn't
that's
going to bring this in here. I wasn't going to bring about BDSM in here because I was going to make this about you. Because I was going to say that race has, it has, like when it comes to a woman, it's not about the color. It's about the submissive. And if she is a dominant woman and she's coming in my life, if she's willing to transition, I could fuck with her. But it is about the submissive. Love to me has no color.
Right.
But because I know who I am, there's a nerve in my heart that responds to the vibrations of submission. I'm so dominant that when I've meet, and I'm not gonna say all black women are like this because I know black women who are submissive, but most of the black women I've met were very combative, and I don't like that. I don't like that. Unless you're willing to transition, I will handle the brat. I will handle the attitudes. But if it is a constant thing, no. I don't want to come home to feel like you are my enemy. I wasn't going to say that. But she brought the vanilla shit. I'm like, yo. So now my question is, I was going to ask you, do you think Spanish women are more submissive? And I was going to ask you, do you think black men are more dominant than the other races?
Yes. On my side, I want to say yes. There's a lot of all right, are we talking about in the bedroom or are we talking about in the relationship?
No, in all ways.
And everything.
All right.
Bedroom's like the last thing on my mind.
In the relationship, there's definitely times where I've seen other Spanish to black relationships, and the Spanish female would have to take the dominance position, but in this like almost like a switch kind of thing. But I think it comes when it's needed, not when it's desired. You know, I think it's more
100%.
when I need to take control of the situation.
They're put in that situation.
Like when it comes time to like get up to bat, they definitely bat 1,000. Like it works for them. When it comes to the just standards for like, you know, bed and pillow talk and stuff like that, I think the black men are probably a little bit more submissive than the Spanish women, if that's the single relationship that we're gonna keep
in the bedroom.
Would you like to answer that?
Do you feel, because I asked him about being submissive women, do you feel that, because you said you have more success with black men, correct?
Yes.
Do you feel that they're more dominant because you're more submissive, or are you a dominant person?
That's what I was going to ask.
Are you a dominant person and you feel like it's a 50-50 thing, or are black men more submissive?
I think it depends on like the scenario, because like outside of the bedroom, like there are times where like, for example, me and him will butt heads. because we'll be like 50-50 in a situation, or he'll be like, all right, no, you're just gonna shut up and listen at this point, like no, and I'll be like, well, who are you talking to? You're not talking to me like that. So it's kind of like 50-50 or like depending on the situation. But when it comes to the bedroom, I feel like he would probably be more
Dominant?
yeah, dominant.
And you like that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was gonna ask if you
Yes.
consider yourself a dominant, would you? Which I do. Just listening to the conversation that you just right now, like we
Mm.
butt heads. That's
Yeah.
definitely a dominant trait.
And I think it's mostly because like Spanish women were like people consider us like really passionate, emotional people.
Oh, definitely.
So I think when it
Yes.
comes to like in the bedroom, we're just like, all right, that's the one place we can just
Relinquish control.
yeah,
Yes.
and not have to like we can get what we got to get and
I
be
love.
good.
I
I
said
love this.
yes earlier because I've been saying this since season 1. And people have hit me up. Women, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know women. You don't know this. People have hit me up. I've never posted anything. Like when people send me
Like the
DMs,
pictures.
I don't screenshot them and post them. I don't do that. I keep everything to myself. But when it's good to bring people on, like people who, it's like completely gonna be unbiased and say shit like this because it just confirms everything
Yes.
that we're talking about.
100%.
I feel like some women say that because they haven't met that person.
Thank
100%.
They're always
You're making
with
me very happy right
yeah, they're
now.
always with that person
Yes,
that's
you
like,
are.
okay, whatever you want, sweetheart. Like, no problem. If it makes you happy and it shuts you up, we'll do it. But they haven't met that person that's like, no, like we're gonna like do this the way
Right.
that we're gonna do this.
Right. Uplift you and
So
stuff.
they haven't met that dominant person that kind of like takes them down a
Yeah.
notch.
I also want to say a lot of people don't examine their relationship properly. I feel no one wants to be submissive in the relationship because they feel like it's a negative
Yes,
look, like a negative look,
Connotation.
but it's not. I think the dominant role is just as important as the submissive role. Like they're equally it's like a nexus. It's a causal relationship. When there's a
Yes.
dominant, there is a submissive, and that's something that's extremely important to be on that balance of success in a relationship. You have to recognize. I'm not going to say it's a role, like a gender role.
Right, exactly.
It's a position that you're currently in the specific situation, and you may like to take that role more than once, and that's how it definitely is. So people take submissive, and they're like, oh no, I'm not submissive.
Yeah.
I'd never just let somebody do it. It's not about letting. You're allowing
Yes.
this, and you like when someone takes charge.
Absolutely.
It's not when
Right. But
you
that's
know-
that's conditioning. That's because
Yes.
we have been conditioned since little to think that those there are certain words that are just bad.
Yeah.
Being submissive is bad. Being outspoken is bad for
Yeah.
a woman. You know what I mean? Like, and that's conditioning. We have to unlearn these things and learn it for what it really is.
right.
Yes.
100%. I love this
what's up.
topic. This is
Yeah.
an awesome episode. We have some great guests.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we already went through the topic that none of you guys have ever felt or have ever been told by your families about, like, why are you bringing another race into your into the why are you getting into a relationship with somebody outside of the race? When you went out with the person who was from a different religion,
Mhm.
did you get any of that backlash?
So my grandmother is really religious for Christianity, so she definitely said something.
She was like, you better get rid of
but-
that Mormon.
Essentially, that's pretty much.
Oh,
But she was willing to like let me experience it myself. So she had her reasoning to it and was like, "You guys are gonna, not
You'll
agree on a
see.
lot,
Yeah.
and you might just want to take that into a relationship," which I did, and it still failed. But like it's all right
Right.
to have a failed relationship because
You
that's how
learn
you
from
get.
it.
Yeah, right. That's how you move forward.
Yeah.
So now, are you guys of the same religion?
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. Now, if your child, I don't know if you have a kid or if you're gonna have a kid or whatever, but if your child comes to you and is like hardcore in love with somebody completely different from completely different. I don't know how much different it could be, but pick something. What would you? Is that like a factor for you to say something? Would you ever tell your children, listen, don't date that person or don't date because of their religion or culture or
Okay, so
race?
if my future daughter is about to date a Klansman, because that's
That
probably
sounds
the
pretty bad.
complete
Yeah,
anti
Yeah.
worst case scenario.
that
like
is.
personally, I would just all right. Let's get this out the way. I think every man in the world is gonna have the same outlook on me. My daughter's not dating until she's like 30. It's just not gonna happen.
Listen, I don't have children, but I am a overly protective and territorial dominant. And I know how I am with my 2-year-old niece and my 16-year-old niece. And I told my 16-year-old niece, the man, and I saw her FaceTiming a guy. I was like, she came over one day because they're doing the Zoom thing now in school. And I was like, who's that guy you're FaceTiming? Oh, it's just a classmate friend. Oh, okay, it better be. Because we had this conversation that the guy that you're, plan to date, and so he has to meet me first. So I can relate, and I don't have kids. Imagine if I have a daughter.
Right.
Oh man.
It's not even the high expectations of it all. It's you don't want them to be horrible people.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. There's a story in Stuck Between Two Different Worlds. It's chapter 7. It's that one. Stuck Between Two Different Worlds. Dominic, the character, has Rena. She's like 13. She's going on her first date. And he brings the kid Travis comes in. He's like, Travis, come. I heard you were coming over. He brings him over to the vault, puts in a combination. He says, you like these guns here? If you don't have my daughter home by like an adequate time, you get it? And it's like that. He's interrogating him now. And I'm like, I created that scene on if I was to have a daughter.
Like from
Oh Lord, I could just see the
Bad
guns.
Boys. Where Will Smith and Martin Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
Episode.
That's true. Episode.
That's Bad Boys 2, I think.
Bad Boys 2.
Where he shows up at the
That's
house and
funny.
he's like, you 13, you look like you're 30.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, 13.
Right.
Yeah. That's that
would you be the
overprotective
same?
that I feel like I'm like, because I'm already, sorry to cut you
No,
off.
no, that's
I'm
fine.
already that overly protective dominant. Like, imagine if I'm a dad and I have a girl.
Well, let
I'm
me
gonna
ask
be
you
that
both
overly
this
protective.
because I know you guys. If I have a daughter, what if you have a son, and he comes with the same thing? I'm in love with this girl, and she's her family's clan.
You want to answer that first, or you want me to?
Well, the thing with me is I believe like men are born dominant. Men are born to be more in control. Like men approach women. It's not common for a woman to approach a man like, here's my number. Men approach women. So I feel like I'm not going to give him, and this is a double standard, it's not fair, but I feel like I'm not going to give him as much hard time as I would give my daughter. Because think about it. If he gets a woman pregnant, that's on the outside. But if she gets pregnant and he's leaving her, like we have to deal with that. Or God forbid she gets raped or stuff like that. Like you got to understand that men have higher levels of testosterone than women. I've never seen that a man is overpowered by a woman physically. You hear it a lot, like men raping women, not like the other way around. So you think
violent.
Yeah, you think about it like a woman is more at risk. She needs to be more careful. She needs to trust more because she's putting her almost like her life in his hands to lead. That's how I look at it. So I look at it like as my son, I'm not going to give him as much as a hard time, but I'm going to educate him as much. This is the type of girls you need to stay away from. This, that, like whatever. But he should be the more dominant person because he's going to be the person who's going to be the approacher.
That's if he's like a dominant person, which some viewers should be dominant. But what would you say like to your son?
I think I would try and hold the same standard that I would give my daughter to my son, in a sense of when it comes to like, sexual relations, when it comes to taking people out and stuff like that. I think I would be a little bit more with my son because of, I know we're talking about dating and stuff like that, but I think when it comes to how the world sees men, because there's a positive and there's a lot of negatives when it comes to men.
Especially black men.
Right. So for my son, I think I would hold him to a higher standard than my daughter only because of how the world sees us. Yeah. So I want him to understand that there's a way to carry yourself and that there's yes and there's no. Yeah. And there's, she's interested in you, she's not. She's using you, she's not using you. Yeah. I think for my son, I would be more worried of him being used than my daughter would be. I feel like my daughter, I don't know why in my head, I see my own daughter in the future being a lot more of a powerful female than
like her mama.
Yeah, no, she's definitely
you guys
powerful.
both have strong genes.
Yes.
So that's inevitable.
Like I feel like when it comes to the difference in talks that you would give your son and your daughter, I think mine would be like pretty similar. Just for
Mine
my
was
son,
similar for both of my kids.
I agree with you.
100%.
I agree with you to a certain degree. Because I'm gonna take pride in teaching my son how to be a man,
Right.
how to take rejection, how to be like have an abundance mindset. She doesn't like you, you could always have a backup because you're the person that's gonna be more dominant. You're the person that's gonna be more approachable. Don't take that as rejection. Don't belittle her or whatever. Be a man. You gotta protect the woman. You have
Right.
more higher
Right.
levels of
Be better.
testosterone for a reason. Your job is to protect her. Your job is to care and stuff like that. Because so I agree with that.
I think like when it comes down to like how I would go about them dating, I would still kind of feel uncomfortable about my son dating at any age. I would still feel uncomfortable. And that's only because of the situations that are possible to happen on the outside of my home. And I'm not afraid of the world. I'm just like, I'm not
Cautious.
right. I don't want to welcome that negativity or the possibility for that negativity into my household.
Mm.
So, like you were saying before, how if my daughter was to get pregnant at a young age, that would be on our problem.
Yes.
But now, if my son had gotten someone pregnant and decided to leave, it would still be like
Our problem.
it would be our problem, but it would be
Theirs.
theirs mainly
Side,
in
yeah.
their household.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be up at night with a baby in my household.
Yes.
They would be up with a baby in theirs.
Yes, because
And-
go ahead.
No, you continue.
God forbid the father isn't ready at the time.
Right.
The
Oh,
condom
no.
rips,
See, this-
whatever, and she doesn't want to have an abortion. I don't believe in abortion. She doesn't want to have an abortion, and she wants to keep it, but he's just not ready, and he's out. Now you have to deal with the kid, because she's living in your household. That's what I meant earlier.
Like, if it's your daughter, you mean?
Yeah.
See, if this is how I think, and I think this is a whole different topic, but if my son, who's older than my daughter, if he got his girlfriend pregnant, guess what, homegirl, you moving into this house because I'm gonna be around to watch this baby grow up. He doesn't want to be a part of that. I'm sorry that my son's a piece of shit, but I'm gonna be a part of that. So I'm gonna be involved in this baby's life. But I have taught my son, obviously different than that. But and the same thing with my daughter. If she gets pregnant, of course she's gonna be here. But if my son got a girl pregnant and he's not ready, well, listen, buddy, that baby's coming. So you
Right.
have 9 months to get ready.
And I agree with you to an extent of I don't want if my son was to get another girl pregnant, I don't want him to just ditch the child as if that's not
Right.
your child.
The child.
Yes, you own this
Yes.
child
It's your
halfway. This
responsibility.
is right.
If you don't want to be with the girl, that's fine.
'Cause
But
you
you're
made-
gonna be in that child's
You
life.
chose the act.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Whether you're using condoms or not, or the condom broke, whatever it is, because you always hear stories, most kids are unplanned. You chose to engage in that act. So if you're choosing to engage in that act, you a man now. I don't care if you're engaging in the act at 17 years old. You're doing what a man is doing. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
it.
you have
Exactly.
to hold yourself accountable. You have to take care of your responsibility because, like, let's be honest, and we're running, but let's be honest because we're jumping
See,
off
this
topic.
is a different topic. This
Let's
always
be,
happens.
let's be honest. When it comes to Black and Spanish, they are the highest when it comes to having kids at an early age and multiple. And also, the fathers are not around. So I'm not gonna say.
Well, I
I'm
think
not gonna
that's
say all of
changing,
them. I'm not gonna say
luckily.
all of them. Most of them. You know what I'm saying? It could have happened at an early age. And these guys were just not ready. They left. Now you have a single Black mother who now she has to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. She has 2, 3 kids. This is a common thing. So being that we experience this now, or we're witnessing it, when we raise our kids, future children, we know what to educate them on.
Right.
Exactly.
Listen, if you're gonna do this, this is the result. For every action, there's a reaction. You have to understand that there's consequences to this.
100%. But anyway,
I know you wanted to go back to the conversation that we had started with. If you want, I had dated a white girl, and it wasn't the most positive interaction with their family. So I wanted to talk about that with you guys, and I
Yes.
actually wanted to ask you guys a question.
Okay.
If you've ever covered that, have you ever covered a situation where the other person's parents of different race or religion or in any type, the person's parents were less than fond of you and made it very obvious and apparent?
Me,
Yes.
I said it in I think
That
Racism in
happened to you?
America. I think either Racism in America or Why Black Lives Matter, season 2. I said that when I was 18, I was dating an Italian woman.
Mm-hmm.
And when she brought me over, we were supposed to have dinner or whatever, she didn't tell her father what he was, like, or what races he is. So I walk up to her parents, go to shake his hand. Now I was presentable. At the time I had tattoos because I started getting tattoos at 17. So I had tattoos, but I was covered. So I was presentable. And I know how to transform being in different situations. Like I know how to keep it hood, but if I'm in corporate, I know how to keep it corporate. If I'm in front of family, I know how to, I know how to be professional. So that wasn't the issue. The father really had an issue with the color of my skin. He didn't shake my hand. And then
That's
what he
awful.
said behind my back, which she reiterated to me, was they're racist. And she wasn't gonna stop seeing me. What he did was they had a lot of money. He sent her away to school. And that fucked up our relationship because now seeing each other every day, the conversation, like she's now partying and she's doing this, she's coming here to visit, it's not the same.
Mm.
So now the dynamic changed, we broke up, and it's like they got what they wanted. But I've dealt with that.
I know you shook your head and you said you dealt with it. With who? Like which
In high school, I dated a white boy, and he was 2 years older than me, so he was like 2 grades above me. And I remember I grew up in a predominantly male household, so I remember them saying like, "Listen, you're dating a white guy. You're Spanish. They're gonna think of you a certain way." And they always told me never lower yourself because of the way they think of you. So when I walked into their house for the first time, the mom kind of like looked at me like, "This is what you're kind of bringing home."
Like she drinks spoiled milk.
They had like a really nice house. They lived in like the Northport area, so they had the giant house. She looked at me kind of like I came to clean their house.
Oh my! How long did that relationship last?
Like a year.
Wow.
Year and a half.
Did they ever like warm up to you, or were they nice?
The dad did. The dad was kind of like once he like I spoke and he realized how I was.
Sometimes, I'm sorry to cut you off. Sometimes when friends and family are not in a agreement with your relationship, that makes the relationship last longer. It makes you guys go harder. I feel like the thing with me is she's so close to her family because usually hardcore Italians are very about family. She's so close to her family, and that affected her.
Yeah.
And I think that affecting her, it affected me as well. But some people, oh, my dad doesn't like you, I'm attracted to you more now.
Even more, yeah. That's usually what happened with me.
Like for us, like my family wasn't the fondest of him, but they were like, as long as you're happy, like because he was like the lacrosse
sporty guy.
Yeah, sporty guy. So they're like, like he's one of those that's typical, like you're not gonna last that long. So the dad, he liked me because I was into the sports and stuff like that. So the mom kind of like was like, no, she's not like someone you'll bring to like dinner to meet your grandmother or something. And I was just like,
sometimes
I'm sorry, I'm not like the debutante type of person.
Sometimes it may be competition.
Yeah.
Sometimes it may be competition because this guy her father was like, when I was 18, her father was like, oh, I want you to be with an Italian man. If and I'm just assuming the black man, you look at the black man, if you have something against him, you look at his competition. Yeah. But the Italian guy, he's just like us.
Yeah.
Well, the mom could have been jealous because that's her baby boy. I mean, you never know. Also, have you ever had any of that?
So I did date a girl who was white, and essentially what ended up happening was when it came time to actually like meet her parents, essentially her father, because her mother didn't really leave the house that much. But when I was supposed to meet her father, he kind of just glanced over me a little bit, like he almost disregarded that I was kind of there. And then later she kind of told me essentially what he said he thought of me. And I can't remember exactly what it was, like quotation wise, but it was like almost as if I wasn't anything special. Now, no, in the conversation, I was maybe 18 or 19 years old, but I was working a job that was paying me like $20 an hour. I was moved up to manager at this other job I was working at. At one point, I had 3 jobs lined up for myself, and I was in college, like full time, doing all of that.
And he got all of that just from looking at you, not even glancing over at you.
Yeah, like he didn't even hear me at all when I spoke to him. So that's why I kind of like wanted to bring that up, because we kind of still dated past that situation, but it was really a smack in my face of like,
course.
I'm working hard over here and you're just disregarding that I have feelings for your daughter.
Yeah.
So that I just wanted to bring up was the black and white. And I know I don't want to like jump into a whole other conversation about race.
We're probably gonna have to do a part 2 or something.
Part 3.
Bring you guys back on. You know what I'm saying?
Essentially, what kind of ended up happening for us is that we still kind of split apart because there was a lot of distance. There was a lot of stuff that we couldn't do because she was trying to hide it from her parents that we were still seeing each other.
Yeah.
And it kind of took away from the relationship. So it dwindled.
Yeah.
But she to this day still like speaks up for minorities of all other colors.
for
Like
her.
she'll fight it in
what's
her
so
family.
You left
space.
what's so
something. You
funny?
left
You know what's so funny?
a memory there.
You know what's so funny? The same thing with the Italian women, and then we'll do our final thoughts. We'll invite you guys back because I like the way
Oh,
the
me
conversation
too.
was flowing. The funny thing about it is when I brought her over to my house, she was like welcomed with open arms.
Yep. Agree.
You know what I'm saying? Being that my parents are, my mom's Dominican, my dad's Haitian. Like they're still black. Like everybody was showing her love, but on the opposite end, you weren't getting that. You know
I
what I'm
got
saying?
it from both. I dated a white guy, got it on that end, and I dated a black guy, and they same thing.
Oh
I was like, does
gosh.
anybody like me?
and that's such a horrible feeling for you, like working so hard on this earth,
No.
just like other people. Like
That
it's a
just
horrible
makes me
feeling.
more snotty.
So,
That's good.
do you have any final thoughts? Because on our show we like to do final thoughts, and
She's like, no.
you don't. She doesn't
She
have
look
one?
really panicked right now.
I think this is a great talk. I actually
I enjoyed it.
having this conversation with you guys because I felt like the energy just kind of flowed through
Absolutely.
back and
Yes.
forth.
Absolutely.
No, I think that's really it. I think I really enjoyed this with like-minded individuals.
Me too.
So,
You have any final
Definitely.
thoughts, Suhey?
My final thoughts. No, it's the same as the other one. You never know. Just because somebody else is a different color, race, religion, whatever. You never know what they have. They could have like hidden gems in there, and you have to get to know people. That's
Yeah.
it.
My final thoughts are just thank you for coming on. Also bringing your lady. And I hope to have you on the show again. You know what I'm saying? So we could either
Yeah, I
do a
had
part
fun.
3 or we could talk about something else.
let me know.
You know what I'm saying? We're always gonna keep in touch because, like we said, we have aspirations for film in the future. So we're always gonna keep in touch.
Or the new
happened?
director.
You're pointing.
Yeah,
Oh
he's gonna be our new director,
Is it all right?
filmographer,
Shout
photographer.
shout out your social media. Shout out
Everything.
people. Whatever you want to do.
Oh, I was actually just gonna give like the audience like a giant piece of advice.
Oh, go
That
ahead.
good too.
Regarding like I
Yeah.
guess everything really. When people tell you these negative things about yourself or try and bring negativity into your life, it's more so better to feed off of it. And I'm not saying get upset and get angry about it. I'm saying channel how you feel into something, making it so that when you do reach your success at one point, you're gonna say, you know what? Thank you for being that way.
Mhm.
Because now I'm sitting at this side of the table and you'll never reach it.
Mm.
At all. You'll never be on this side of the table because now my mind has expanded because of what you said negatively to me.
I love that.
And that's the biggest thing. It goes relationships, it goes to work and career, it goes to schooling, education, everything. And that's for all audiences of any age, of any
Does-
life situation.
your,
That's perfect.
That was beautiful.
I
Does
love
your
it.
lady have any final thoughts? I'm trying to bring that out of her. I know
She's
she's
like,
shy. I'm trying to bring it. All right. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for listening to our part 2. Once again, this was dating outside of your race, culture, and religion. Ladies and gentlemen, you were tuned in to the Discipline Therapy Podcast. I love this part. Peace.